life I live up a lot of strange cases. A million ways to fall in love with all of the mistakes. It's a perfect place to keep up with the pace and navigate a maze. Meticulously engineered to make a payday. Hey, hey, who are you? What's your deal? What you coming to take?
Hello, Khortni, and
hey there.
Welcome to the Brock Morrison, the Short Round podcast. It's a beautiful podcast. Everybody loves it. Only if they would listen to it, they would love it. They would. I'm not lying about that. So, I actually got to see you fight live once. You was fighting in Arena Wars.
I was going to say, I thought I recognized the logo on your hat.
Yes.
Okay,
the old
cool.
Arena Wars. Yeah. And I remember you fought a girl that was a karate girl, right?
Yeah,
and that was a tough fight. That chick right there was like,
she's no joke.
she was no joke whatsoever. I'm gonna sit there and say her karate was on point.
Yes. Oh yes. Her striking is phenomenal. That's one of the things that I knew going into that fight was the experience that she had, and kind of had to work my game plan around that.
Yeah, doesn't it suck sometimes when you're like, it's not my game plan that I do. So Khortni, it's always the same three questions: how and why you got into martial arts, what are you doing with it now, and that would be three already. How and why, what are you doing with it now, and what's your plans for it in the future? So pretty much the first question is like how and why you got into martial arts, like what style did you get into and things like that, and we'll get to know each other throughout the back and forth.
Yeah. So I started out at a local gym. My daughter started at a jiu-jitsu class at the gym that I started at. And then my son was like, hey, this looks like fun. I want to do it. And the head coach there was like, hey, while you're hanging out, why don't you take advantage of the facility and lift, whatever. So that's what I started doing. I started powerlifting and, getting strong, getting into shape. And then a friend of mine asked me to do one of the kickboxing classes with her. And it was just one of those things where I kind of instantly fell in love with it. It became very therapeutic for me. When you're on the mat, when you're focusing on drilling and doing combinations and stuff like that, that's the one thing you're focused on. And so everything else in your mind just kind of quiets down for a little bit. And so between learning the new skill, getting healthy, having it be therapeutic, it was just like magic for me. It was just phenomenal. I fell in love with it. I went on to try the Colorado State Muay Thai tournament 6 months after that. And I actually did fairly well. I ended up losing my match, but as far as like never fighting before against a girl that had 8 fights, like I did pretty freaking good. So that's all right. I can work with it. So I spent probably 18 months after that, just kind of learning more, because I was like, if I'm going to do this again, I want to get better. And my initial plan was to try the Muay Thai tournament again. And my coach came to me and was like, hey, so I have a fight for you in 3 weeks. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And long story short, I went and I did that fight and I dominated all 3 rounds. I absolutely loved it. That hand being raised at the end, it was just great. And then everything from there kind of just snowballed. It was just one thing after another. And the more experience I gained, the more opportunities kept coming my way. And, making new connections, trying to go different routes, stuff like that. And there we have it. People started reaching out to me and, offering me stuff. They say, we see you online. We saw your fights. We want to have you on our show, which is kind of how I ended up at Arena Wars is, they had seen one of my prior fights and they just wanted to bring me on.
So it's very rarely that you ever have somebody on here, because how long have you been fighting?
So I took the the first tournament fight that I did was in April of 2017. My first
Okay.
actual fight was in October of 2018.
Okay, so you're fairly new to the sport, and you had no prior, martial art training at all.
No, none. I
So,
started from the ground up in, I was 29 and I'll be 37 tomorrow. So
okay, yeah, because it's funny. The only person we ever had on the show was Smiling Sam from UFC. Uh, he had no previous martial art. He just was in college, got out. Somebody says, "Hey, you want to fight?" He's like, "Sure." And he had like 8 fights before he even started training.
yeah,
So it's very strange when I hear people that get into something, then start a combat sport thing with it, in a very short time. And I think it is kind of cool that your children got into it first, and then you're like, hey, let's go ahead and it's usually the opposite way around. The kids get into it because the parents are into it, but you're the totally opposite. So when you first started, you said you was doing kickboxing training, right? Was
Mhm.
you doing any like jiu-jitsu or anything like that? Because I don't really do a whole lot of research on anybody, just because I think it's boring asking questions I already know the answers to. But just like, I'll go and, do the whole, I don't know why my hands are all out of whack today, but like Talladega Nights, what do I do with my hand?
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, but looking through your thing, I see that you do Sambo, which is actually a very cool thing because you don't really see a whole lot of Sambo trainers that much at all. And one of my favorite UFC fighters from the very beginning was Oleg Taktarov. He was a Sambo guy from Russia. So you had one fight, then he says, "Hey, let's get you into another." Was you just doing kickboxing in that time, or what? Did he want to throw you into an MMA fight, or was he at least gentle enough not to just throw you in shark-infested waters, even if you don't know how to swim?
Correct. So I actually started doing kickboxing and Muay Thai because the rule sets are pretty similar. Minus the clinch and the knees and stuff like that. But it was all stand-up striking based. And I at the time I was only training in stand-up. I would learn some occasional, takedowns or ground stuff, but not enough to really go off of. Let's see, towards the latter part of my stand-up, I threw the 2 boxing matches in there, just for more experience, just to kind of get my feet wet and try something different. And then I took a 9-month break, really started working ground, because that's when we had talked about doing MMA, to broaden my amateur resume, if you will, get my feet wet in every different thing before turning pro. So that way, I kind of knew what I was getting myself into, and I didn't just go pro with no MMA experience. So yeah, we worked ground for about 9 months, just a lot of everything. I did my first MMA fight, and then went and did my first Sambo tournament, which was combat Sambo and sport Sambo. They didn't have any women for combat Sambo, so I ended up fighting against a guy in that one.
Wow, look at you go.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Like they kind of evened it out weight-wise. They gave me a lighter guy than what I was walking at the time, just so we don't have, let's say, 145-pound male and 145-pound female. The strength difference is going to be astronomical. So they gave me a little bit of a weight advantage. That kid and we were just having fun, and I was winning, and then ended up, I think I got choked out, or not choked. I get choked? Maybe. I can't remember. Everything's a little blurry right now, but I ended up losing like right towards the very end. Maybe it was submission. Choke submission, something.
Something
But
that
yeah,
made you stop.
yeah, yep, pretty much.
Something that made
They
you
stopped
stop.
it. So yeah, so then from there I had 3 more MMA fights, and then yeah, here we are.
So let me ask you a question. When it comes down to, because you've done kickboxing, Muay Thai, and you have some of those people out there, don't ever sit there and say they're the same thing, because boy, they will get mad. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Trust me, I hear it from people all the time. It's like, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing,
They're
right?
not the same.
And I just do it just to make them mad. I'm like, yeah, it's the
Right.
same thing, right? And they're like, no. That's like sitting there saying golf and hockey is the same thing. You're both hitting little balls with sticks, right? Well, a puck, right? So you done kickboxing, Muay Thai, you done boxing and MMA, or the Sambo tournament. Which one did you kind of gravitate towards more? Did you like the stand up, or did you like the mix? Or
So at heart, I'm a striker. I'm a stand-up type person. I honestly hate grappling. It's not my favorite thing to do. And I don't know if it's just from lack of experience or what. I can make some cool stuff happen on the ground, but just in my heart, it's always been striking. I did like MMA because you can get really creative with what you can do. You're able to utilize all of your weapons, as opposed to just boxing. You only have your hands, or kickboxing, Muay Thai, you only have your stand-up. So as far as like creativity purposes, love MMA, but foundationally and in my heart, I am a stand-up fighter.
well, I mean, that's a good thing that the avenues that they have out now. I mean, you can still make a good living out of either one. I mean, for a long time, well, not for a long time, but I didn't know for a long time Bellator had a kickboxing division. I never knew that until I had Gabriel Vago, and he's like, yeah, I was a Bellator kickboxing champion. I'm like, why did I never know that?
Yeah. I actually learned that a couple of years ago and forgot about it.
Yeah. And then I guess, like Glory is kind of like on their way back, I guess. Right when the pandemic happened, it really tanked everything that they was doing. So they're kind of like on the rebound of building up Glory and stuff now. So, it's always fun because usually you'll see people like they like one towards the other. And every once in a while you get that person, oh, I love it all together. I really like anything jiu-jitsu or anything like that. My body hates it, so I don't even do it anymore. My back, I've got 3 balls of discs. For some reason, the lower part of my back here, the last few weeks, I've got a big knot in my muscle, and that sucks. I went paralyzed from the neck down at one point in time and had to have 4 vertebrae. So my body just says, no, just stand up. Yeah, just stand up and punch people if that's what you want to do. I mean, I'm never going to professional fight again, but I still do train karate or Muay Thai and stuff like that. So how was your very first match? Was you excited? Was you scared? Was you nervous?
It was a little bit of everything. I remember sitting down. So it was 2-minute rounds. And, 2 minutes doesn't seem like a whole lot, but then when you're in there, it completely changes the game. So I remember sitting down in my corner in between rounds and telling my corner, like, oh my God, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And he's like, yeah, well, keep going. You're not done yet. I'm like, okay. And, everything just felt super heavy. I think when you go into your very first one, you don't know what to expect. And so you're kind of oblivious to a lot too, because then the second one happens and you're like, oh my God, what did I just sign myself up to do? So there's that aspect too.
Yeah, that that very first match when you have to sign that death waiver saying, that they're not liable if you die, is makes something a little bit different click in your head.
Yeah.
Now, see, the thing is too, is that you was older when you started to fight. What was your parents' outlook on this? I always ask, what was mom and dad, or, what was the outlook on that when they you decided to fight?
So my dad has actually been 100% on board with me fighting ever since day one. He just thinks it's great. My mom, she was very on board with it. She just didn't like seeing me get hit. Yeah, so she's like, I'll support you because you love it and it means so much to you, but your face, it's just too pretty to get hit. And, yeah, so I mean, they were both super supportive, just,
Yeah, and you said you started doing all this because your kids were getting into it. How do they feel? And obviously they got to like that mom's a fighter. They got to sit there and think that's kind of cool. I'm not putting words in their mouth because I don't know. They could be like, I hate it, but how does that play out for you, and what do they think?
So my kids, I have 2 teenagers, so it's a battle in it of itself. They both think that it's pretty cool. My daughter does not like watching me get hit. It's just a mental struggle for her, which I can respect. My son, he actually competes in Muay Thai as well, so he kind of understands it, and he's just like, okay, mom, whatever.
Yeah, and what is it like sometimes when you have to go to school, to pick them up or something? There you are with the black eye and things like
that. So I try to avoid having to go on campus if I'm all banged up. Thankfully, after my fight up there in Salem, I was pretty banged up for a couple of days. And so I tried to avoid going into public, because when we went to the airport the next morning, we got a lot of looks.
I bet.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense. And that had to suck on going through the airport the next day.
Oh my gosh. So we got back to the hotel after that fight, and it was late because we were the second to last fight.
Yeah.
And I think we slept for like 2 hours and then had to get up and drive, the hour to Portland to get to the airport. And so I'm like exhausted. My hair's still braided and my face is starting to swell and bruise. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I had like my hat on and my sunglasses on, and my coach was like, you're trying to hide yourself. It looks a little suspicious. And it's funny that you mentioned Derek. So he, he's all big and burly. My coach is all big and burly, and I'm half their size walking through the airport. So at the shakeout before the fight, I had done a takedown on Derek, and his head hit the top of my head, and I actually ended up splitting his eyebrow open. So he had a big old Band-Aid on his face. And so we were just like wearing our martial arts like t-shirts and hoodies and stuff, like hoping it would make sense. And so we're standing in line at security, and one person was like, I have got to know the story behind your face. And I was like, I got into a fist fight last night. I don't know what else to say. One of the airline attendants, she walked over and she's like, I'd ask you if you want something to drink, but would you like some ice? Because your face really looks like it hurts. And I was like, I'm fine. I'm just tired. And then my connecting flight from Seattle to Denver, my seatmate, I sat down next to her and she looked at me, and the first thing out of her mouth was, oh my God, are you okay? I was like, I'm fine. Thanks for noticing. We went to breakfast.
When your man gets up to go to the bathroom, they're over like, are you okay? Do you want to get the air marshal?
Oh yeah. We went to breakfast when we got back home, and I got back to altitude, so everything really started to swell and settle. And we had walked into this restaurant, and Derek had told me, he was like, there was a lady walking our direction, and she was just staring at me going, oh my God, because it was so beat up.
Gosh.
Yeah. So I just started making jokes about it. I was like, I mean, you want to see what happened? I can give you like a one-on-one display with these hands.
I should have made him the sandwich the way that he wanted to.
Yeah, we were joking about that one too.
Me and my wife, she does that to me all the time. Like, we'll be at a restaurant and stuff, and be like, all right, I'm going to go pay the bill. I'm going to pay the bill, and guys, go ahead and I'll meet you out in the car. And she's like, well, you can see your daughter again next weekend. I'm like, shut up. She does that all the time. Or we'll be meeting up somewhere at the store, and she's like, you know what? You could have been here on time when it's your weekend for your kid. I'm like, shut up. Yeah. Spouses are not always the funnest things to be around when they want to be a smart butt all the time. But so you've been doing martial arts. What is it? It's 2017. So you're right around what, 5 years, 6 years? Say
Actively
about
competing, yeah.
Okay. So after that, you had your Sambo match, and you've had your Muay Thai. What else did you? How was your boxing? How was your boxing matches? How'd that go for you?
So my first boxing match I took on 8 days notice against a legit boxer. Like, that's all she trained in was boxing. And I won that one 30-27 across the board. 2 weeks later, I went and had a kickboxing title fight out in Kansas. And then 2 weeks later, I came back and had my second boxing match against an MMA fighter from here in Colorado. And I won that one as well.
Wow, you were taking no time off, are you?
Yeah, I stay pretty busy as long as I can. So before I came to Oregon, 3 weeks prior to that, I had fought in a fight here in Colorado too. I stay as busy as they'll let me.
Wow, you're sitting there trying to make up for lost time there. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting there saying that you're old, because that's not what I'm saying. But the older we get, the harder it is sometimes to heal. But you're not even that old now. I mean, what are you, 34? No, you higher or lower?
I turn 37 tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's still not that bad. I mean,
it's not terrible, but it's not 19. It's not 24.
No. But I mean, at least that also works in a couple different ways, is because when you was learning it, you were learning at a different time in your life where I don't need to be as cocky because, I'm not a 17-year-old, you're not sitting there worrying about, well, am I ever going to find a guy because I'm getting punched in the face or, whatever, so that makes always a total difference, so, I mean, you already had your kids, because your kids now are older, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're teenagers, like you said. So, that makes it a little bit easier, I think. And then just your knowledge wise of learning things is also on a different plateau too. So, 37 is not that bad. Let me see, where are we at on time? I am blind and I cannot see across my room. Okay. I was right on time almost. Right on time where I wanted to be.
Good.
No, it happens and it doesn't happen. So obviously, are you a full-time fighter or do you have a secondary job or what?
I have a 9 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah. I train full-time and I work full-time.
And what kind of work do you do secondary?
I do accounting, bookkeeping, admin stuff.
Yeah, exactly what almost every other fighter does.
Yep.
Is accounting and stuff.
Yep.
Because
I like it. I've got this remote job and it's super nice because I can fit my training in and then work around the training schedule. So I can have the best of both worlds right now.
No, and that has to work in your advantage, and, you can do accounting and they don't really need to see you. So like if you did have a bad day or, a bad training day, did you have any serious injuries since the time you've been training?
So actually I've been really fortunate. I've only had one injury this entire time. And that was a year ago when I fought in Florida. In the first round, I took an overhand to the side of my head right here, and I broke this bone and didn't realize it until a week later. And then I had to have surgery, and they had to re-break it and put it back into place. And I was out from my fight September 24th until February 1st.
Wow, where was you fighting down in Florida?
It was at the Pensacola Bay Center for Island Fights.
Okay. Yeah, I used to live not that far from there, and then I live down in South Florida. So I always like to find out where people are fighting when they're down there in Florida. Yeah, I think I did see a picture of that scrolling where it was like cracked right there, like right there on your eye socket almost.
It was just back behind the cheekbone. It's a weird
Oh,
bone.
yeah, that is. It is. It did look weird because like the imaging that you have up there, I was like, what are you talking about? And then I look and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you can see the big old, yeah.
Oh yeah. So that definitely puts a damper on your training and things like that. Okay. So now we're pretty much almost at the time where we've kind of learned, how you got into martial arts. The reason why is because you was bored. You was a bored mom. It sounds like the gym pretty much, pushed you in the direction of having to fight. They're like, hey, you're already here. You might as well do something. And he's like, all right, if my kid can get punched in the face, I can too.
Yep.
And also to anybody listening out there, if you have rowdy kids, get them in the same martial art class that you're in, and then you can legally hit them. Yep. Anytime. I even do that with Joe. She goes to Muay Thai where I go to also.
Nice.
And every time I have her hold pads whenever she's a little brat, and I kick her across the room. No, I don't kick her across the room. But so we understand the reason why it's kind of interesting. You did start a little bit later in life. You was kind of smart, and you just didn't stick with one kind of thing. And you did do some boxing, and you did do, your mixed martial arts, and you did do your Muay Thai. So that kind of takes us into what's martial arts doing in your life now. Obviously, you have a fight coming up October the 15th, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to explain a little bit about that?
So that is my professional and promotional debut. I will be fighting for BKFC here in Denver against Crystal Pittman. And just kind of trying that one out and seeing where it takes me. Yeah,
that's I don't even know why I didn't think about that. You're sitting there doing your bare knuckle debut there in Denver. Of course, UFC, very first fight was in Denver. What made you want to switch over to a bare knuckle fight? Or are you just pretty much one of the person that will take any kind of fight that comes just because you like the competition of fighting?
A little bit of both. So I'm all about opportunity. Me and my manager have been in talks about me trying bare knuckle for a while. And it was all about an opportunity that made sense to me. There, up until recently, they only had a division at 125 pounds. I hate 125. Like, I can get there, but it's not that easy. I prefer 135. And so I kept saying, if they'll do it at 135, like, let's talk. So finally he called and he was like, so Pittman verbally agreed to 135. And he goes, they're going to be in Denver. And I was like, okay. And this was right around when I was getting ready to come up there to fight. And I was like, let me get through this fight. We'll talk about it. And so I came back and really thought about it. And I was like, you know what? Like, I have wanted to make my pro debut at home. This is a massive platform to be able to do that. So, my hands are really sharp. I love boxing. I love fighting. I love fighting, period. Or just be real here. And so just everything about it kind of lined up and made sense to me. So I was like, all right, this is the route we're going to go. So
that is kind of cool that you get to make your, your fighting, bare knuckle fighting in your home state, because, why wouldn't you? I mean, that makes sense. The good thing about the bare knuckle fighting championship is that it's starting to really take off a lot.
Yeah.
I remember my coach over here at the MMA, he fought in it, I think like 3 years ago, and it wasn't nowhere around as what it is even now. Matter of fact, I think it's even been a little bit longer than 3 years, but it's nice to see it's very hard. The bare knuckle is a very brutal sport. That is a
Oh, yeah.
very brutal sport for men
Oh,
or for women, you know. So sometimes I think for it to start taking off, I think people are kind of like backing off a little bit of how, you know, it being brutal. I mean,
mhm.
because it is a pretty brutal, hard sport, but the people that fight in it are, you know, definitely warriors, you know, especially with them signing Bukai and um,
Sanchai.
Sanchai from, you know, over in Thailand and stuff. That's definitely going to be an interesting division, whoever's going to be fighting those two guys.
Oh, yeah.
Your opponent, is this her first bare knuckle, or has she had any?
No, so this will be her fourth.
Oh, her fourth.
Mhm.
Now, how do you feel about that? Because, you know, it's always like this, you know, having a 0-0 go against each other, you know, of course, that would be better for you, right? But somebody that has that, you know, just that tight, different edge of, you know, a full combat sport getting punched bare knuckle already before, does that give you any kind of worry, or how do you feel about that?
No, so I thought about that actually. It took me a while to decide on this fight because I was trying to take into consideration all the factors. My opponent actually fought a friend of mine at the same time that I was preparing to fight up there. And it was so my opponent fought my friend named Jessica. It was Jessica's debut for BKFC. And so Crystal had already had 2 fights with BKFC at that point. Jessica was making her debut. And knowing somebody like personally that went in there to go do it, you know, I saw that it wasn't as bad as I had made it out to be. And that, you know, she was fighting somebody with experience. And I was like, okay, well, if she can do it, I can do it too. Like, you know, so, and I know a lot of people say like anything can happen in there. You know, you can get somebody that's never fought a day in their life go in there and just absolutely dominate, or you can get somebody with, you know, 80 fights experience go in there and get killed. Like it just, there's no telling what could happen. So, you know, I'm sure she obviously knows what it's like to get hit with no gloves on, but, as hard as I got hit in that last fight, I mean, you know, all props to Mihaela. She hits like a freaking truck. But that's kind of the bar that I set for everything, you know. That was with gloves on. I felt like I was running into a brick wall constantly. I felt like I was hitting a brick wall constantly. And so that to me was like a good foundation as far as you know, hitting without gloves.
Now, the thing is, your friend that went in there, obviously she'd be in the same division as you.
No, so their fight was at 125.
So she went up, your opponent's gone up a little bit.
Yep.
Sorry, I got my little dog over there acting all
Okay.
crazy. No. so good. So you will never have to sit there and go into the same weight class as your friend then, huh?
Yeah, no, not unless I drop her, she comes up. Which I don't see that happening either way. But her and I were supposed to fight a couple of years ago in Kansas, in a kickboxing tournament for a title out there, and she ended up hurting her knee, so that never happened. That's actually how we became friends, is that we were supposed to fight and then it never happened.
Yeah, fighting friends are never fun or
Yeah.
that great of an idea. It always, you know, something always happens afterwards. So you have that fight coming up in October. Anything else that you have coming up anytime soon, or are you just focused on that October? Is the 15th or 17th?
15th. So that is the only thing I'm focused on right now. My coach told me, he goes, I know you like to stay busy. You're taking at least 30 days off after this one, which I'm not going to argue. You know, I think I'll need that. I'll have to let my body heal, you know, regardless of the outcome. My body will still need a break. Recovery time's not as quick as it used to be. So, you know, and I'm not going in at a pro level now, I'm not going to shortchange my body and the recovery time that it needs. I need to make sure that I can go in at 100% each time.
Yeah, and definitely with something like that, you wouldn't want to sit there and push yourself, because a serious injury, and if you go get into it, faster could actually, hurt your, time or even your fight career. So that does make sense. So that right there pretty much answered what you're doing with martial arts now. So that right there pretty much got us to where you're at with your fight career now. Usually the first question always takes up the most time, second, a little bit shorter. And then this one right here, what is your plans for the future? Once you're all done with fighting, do you plan on doing some kind of, training people or what is your plans for martial arts in the future?
So after I retire, I definitely want to stay involved in the fight community. It's been a big part of my life for so many years that I couldn't imagine just completely walking away from everything. So more than likely what I'll end up doing is coaching, and then possibly management options.
No, and that's always a good thing to do. I mean, because training people, being a manager and stuff, it does kind of keep you into that the fight game even when you're not. And it really gives you something else, other than just retiring. Like, all right, well, I'm done with the fight game. There's nothing else for me to do,
Yeah.
So that is really good. Now, what are you planning on doing with your fights? Or do you plan on sticking in the because I don't know exactly what kind of contracts they keep you under, but like, are you just going to be doing the bare knuckle for a few times, or or is it fight by fight contracts, or how does that work? Or do you plan on still doing some MMA or Muay Thai, or what do you plan on doing here with it in the future?
So this is a single fight contract. So I'm going in there trying to see if I like it and if it's something that I want to continue to pursue. I also like to compete in different sports, so I don't want anything that would keep me exclusive to only fighting one style with one promotion. Because unfortunately sometimes people have to go for a year without fighting, and I don't like that. I don't have a lot of time, so I want to make use of my time left as best as I can. So it's kind of, I'm going to take this one fight, see how I like it, see if I want to do more fights with them, and also see what other opportunities come my way. If it's a kickboxing match, I'll do it. If it's just boxing, I'll do it. Whatever makes the most sense to me.
Oh, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we pretty much, I took up as much of your time as I could without it getting boring. I hope not. I don't know. I hope it wasn't
not boring at all.
Yeah. Other than my dog over here acting like a moron. No, but seriously, I do want to thank you for taking some time out of your day. And I want to ask you one more question, though, because I didn't touch on it before. Did you get any slack about doing a male and female fight?
Nope.
Nothing whatsoever.
None at all. Actually, everybody thought it was pretty badass.
And you said it was just a submission bout, right?
No, so that one was a combat sambo match.
Okay.
So when it had happened, my opponent walked onto the mat first, and then I walked in afterwards, and there was like a whole bunch of, whoa, like, holy cow, this is really happening. She's actually gonna fight a dude. And then afterwards, the Sambo community is pretty tight, especially that one was in Texas. And everybody there came up, they were like, oh my God, you did great. I think they had underestimated me at first. And then when I went out there and I was able to kind of hold my own for the entire duration, they were just like, okay, this girl ain't playing. So
no, that makes sense. All right. Well, I'm going to let you get going because obviously my dog Leanie is not having any more of it. No, I really do appreciate you coming on, and maybe you can come on again if you like.
Yeah.
Maybe my back won't be, sending jolts down my spine, and as soon as it does, it just makes my brain just go, But I want to wish you the best on your fight on October the 15th.
Thank you.
I know
so
I was going to
much.
try to say 17th again, but
Nope.
it happens. It happens. But no, I wish you the best on your upcoming fight, and I appreciated your fight that I got to see you in at the beginning of the year. That was actually a really, really good fight. It's interesting to watch. And well, come on up here. Come up here, geez. And kids, furry dogs, cats. I'm surprised none of my cats ran up here. All right, stop. All right. Kaylin, I really do appreciate this. And
Yeah, of course.
you want to say goodbye?
Oh, hi there, puppy.
Yeah. All right, Kaylin, you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
Strange cases, a million ways to fall in love with all of the mistakes. It's a perfect place to keep up with the pace and navigate a maze, meticulously engineered to make a payday. Who are you? What's your deal? What's your coming?